And this is something you said to me, which really like blew my mind, is like HR is going to have to learn how to recruit agents. Like,
Mhm.
tell us more. Oh my goodness. Like,
Um,
and remember, this is for
exactly,
the
exactly.
people.
Yeah,
Like, what on earth? Like,
yeah.
how do we prepare ourselves for this? Honestly, you are in for such a treat. In this very special series that I recorded with my brother, who is a principal at AWS, we got into the nitty gritty of what the people, so people in learning and development, talent management, talent acquisition, all the people, what we actually need to know about AI. And we dug deep. We took some of your questions. We had almost 20 questions from my audience that we asked him. I got to ask the really stupid questions, and he really explained it in a way that just makes sense. And so you are going to really get so much from this special series. There are 5 episodes in this series, and I encourage you to listen to them all because we need to stay ahead here. We are the critical people who are going to enable everyone else to thrive in this AI integrated workplace. So enjoy, let us know what you think. And if you submit your questions, who knows? Maybe he'll come back on again. Enjoy. If we put our stuff in to open AI and then it comes back, so I've created my model together with my AI, is that mine?
So I saw that question, and it's a
Yeah.
really, really good question, and it's a very, I'd say it's a very murky situation right now.
Mm-hmm.
So even as we speak, all of those big players that I mentioned, OpenAI and Anthropic and many others have got active court cases going on in, I think, in the US and maybe elsewhere about copywriting and training on data and things like that. I think it was even a lawsuit from Disney now against reproducing their characters in videos and things like that.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so these court cases, as they play out, it's going to give us a steer. But I think in another comment in another question is how fast this space is moving,
Mhm.
and quite literally, like lawmakers have not kept up with it. There is no legal framework for how this works. There have been a couple of rulings, though, that have come from courts where effectively the tone of it is that generative AI, as long as you haven't gone and learned something that you're not allowed access to, it's good to use. So what I mean by that is that if you've got some paywalled subscription IP that is just yours, and AI has gone along and somehow mined that out and is now offering it free to other people, that might be deemed a violation when the law actually gets written. However, if that if AI could have accessed that data as you and I can, so if I just Google and I search for something and I find it, and that gets used to create some other content, then that's fine. And I think the premise is that say for example you want to be a chef, and you study under the best chef in the world for 5 years, and then you open your own restaurant, and you take all those learnings to now produce your restaurant. That's yours. It's yours through your learning. That's now yours. That chef can't come along and go, hang on, you can't cook steamed mussels or whatever the case is. Um, so that's kind of the premise. So in that question is, if you've got IP that you're putting in and you're producing out something unique and different, nominally, yes, that's yours. It's yours to use and things like that. But I would say that legally, I don't think there's any kind of set in stone, where this is currently today. Hopefully, it's going to become clearer in the coming months and weeks, especially as these legal challenges play out. because exactly as we mentioned before, a legal challenge will then set the precedent for how this rolls down the line.
Mm,
Um, but certainly, even today, you can see that people are creating videos, they're creating blog posts, they're creating content, things like that in collaboration with AI.
mhm,
And I
mhm.
think as things stand, that's very much classed as yours. You know, as long as it's not just plagiarism. I
Yeah.
think if you've added your magic and you've added your points of view and your spice onto it, and now you've got something different that's specific to you,
Mhm,
I
mhm.
think that that's fine. But legally, I don't think there's any kind of hard and fast rules right now.
Okay. That's very good to know. Yes. So I actually created the models and then went to copyright it in the normal way. So
Yeah,
I
and
think
and
that
if
should
that's
be okay. But if it's
yeah,
out
100%.
there
Yeah.
and because it's open AI, right? So anyone can access that. So they could Google my frameworks.
Yes, absolutely, they could. Yeah. And yeah, that's maybe a great example is that I think then they can't sell them as their frameworks, but
Mm-hmm.
as is the process anywhere, is that they can look at your frameworks and learn from them and maybe
Mm-hmm.
produce one of their own that is
Yes.
different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yes. That makes sense. All right. That's awesome. Okay. So let's dig into the questions now, Gav. We had 18 come through. We've definitely covered a lot of them. So let's just go through. So, how to train AI to become more accurate. Like, I keep having to do the same instructions over and over. So, that we've chatted about
Yeah.
creating our own settings. And I think if we still have time, we can go into that a little bit more. And you can actually, because this is for YouTube too. And so, to actually like literally have a screen share might be great. I've never done that before, and my IT skills are lacking because I relied on my two brothers. So, we might not get that right, but I don't know. All right. And then the second one, people, oh, yeah. So this was so funny. Like, so people say, oh, it'll do your creative work for you. And then she said, I don't want it to do that. I want it to pack my dishwasher.
Yeah, no,
I
that
love
was
that so
awesome.
much. I laugh so much. So, but I suppose at the end of the day, the real question is how do we get to keep our stuff that we actually want to do? Because and let's look at the big picture a little bit, because if we look like industrial revolution, right, that took a lot of manufacturing jobs away, and this is probably the not the first threat, that's a bit arrogant, but like the biggest threat to knowledge workers
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
we've ever seen. So I think that's what the question is really.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Great question and very relevant. So the way that I read that question was the packing of the dishwasher. Um, so all of us in whatever job you have, maybe particularly in the creative jobs, is that there's a lot of other stuff that needs to get done before you start getting creative. So what I mean by that is, you might need to do some investigation. You might need to identify your target personas, your target markets, understand things, get some ideas. You might need to do some deep research on topics and things to get you to a point where you know what you would like to create. And we can talk about the learner space in a little bit. But I think that stuff, all of that stuff, is the packing the dishwasher. And I think that's
Mm,
the stuff that AI can really help you shortcut. Is the administrative tasks, the research, surfacing ideas very, very accurately and very quickly. But I would say though is that when it comes to creativity, I think the thing that AI has done is it's created a whole new kind of watermark for quality. So previously, if I wanted to create some really nice looking content, maybe I'd have to use Photoshop, or I'd not only afford it, but I'd have to have the skills to know what to do with it. If I wanted to create really good looking videos or images or anything like that, I'd need some skills, I'd need some tools, maybe some money to enable that, some education. Whereas now, that's as simple as the English language.
mhm,
I can describe to these tools what I would like, and hey, there I've got it now. And anybody can do that. So when it comes to that creativity, I would say, you know, everybody, no matter what role you have, that you have to know how to use generative AI to help you pack that dishwasher.
Mhm.
And that becomes even more automated as you get better at it. But you're going to have to learn it. There's
Mhm.
just no two ways about it. You're not going to be able to exist in a parallel universe where you can be creative and AI is something different. It goes hand in hand.
Mhm.
And increasingly that's what people are going to be looking for in employment and in the skills that you can bring. So yes, learn how to use AI to do all of that stuff that takes your time but doesn't actually make you happy or add value. But crucially as well is use AI to differentiate yourself.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because in a world where you right now on your device, I at the same time on my device, we can write something out that's going to produce something back that is really good quality, be that a blog post, be that education material, be that images, videos, whatever. So if you can do it super easily and I can do it super easily, what differentiates quality? And that's where people's little individual someone mentioned in the questions, well, nuances. How do we cater for nuances? Nuance is an opportunity because it's your nuances that are
Mhm.
going to differentiate you. Here's a creative problem. I see this differently. So I'm not going to just ask for it to create me this content. I'm going to say, this is my perspective on this. I want you
Mhm.
to create content that aligns with this way of thinking. That's going to be very different to someone who just asks a question and gets something back. Um, and even in today's world, you see this in the education system, and this is proving out to be the case.
Mhm.
Is that professors are getting back work that is identical because everybody is just
Mhm.
going in
Mhm.
saying, "Write me a story on World War II," and
Mhm.
well, here we go.
Mhm. Mhm.
But if you add your own spice and your own unique ideas to that, and when I was talking to someone and the story kind of resonated with them, if I say to ChatGPT or any other tool, I need to produce a paper on World War II, write me a paper on World War II, I'm going to get something back.
Mhm.
But if I go in there and I say, I would like to imagine myself as a young 18-year-old soldier that just got recruited. I'm on the front lines in France, in the trenches. Write me a story from that perspective. I'm going to get something totally unique, totally different, compelling. The teacher's going to read it and go, "Wow, this is
Mhm.
moving or epic or whatever." It's not just a cookie cutter.
Mhm.
Very, very basic example, but it's that type of thing. It's your nuances, your perspective, your ideas that are literally, that is going to be your differentiation. So, in this funny conversation, being human is what's going to differentiate you. You just have to know how to feed that into the
Mhm.
machine to get the thing that you need.
Yes, yes. Okay, and we're going to get to younger people because that's, I know this is where the whole conversation started. While this whole series existed, yeah, for those listening, as Gav mentioned right in the beginning, that we have a Sibi chat and we have like 1 hour across all the time zones and we can actually chat. And he got into something he created, and I was like, just like, like what needed to dig deep, and I was like, took over the whole conversation. I felt really bad, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. So that's how this whole series was born. And so I really want to get into us as parents, what we should be doing, students, people just starting college and that sort of stuff. So that's like a whole, almost a separate episode in this little mini
Yeah.
series. Um, because yeah, that is a minefield. It really is.
Mhm.
Like, yeah. Anyway, okay, so let's just go quick questions now. So, agents, what are they, and how are they going to change work? And this is something you said to me, which really like blew my mind. Is like HR is going to have to learn how to recruit agents. Like,
Mhm.
tell us more. Oh my goodness. Like,
um,
and remember, this is for
exactly,
the
exactly.
people.
Yeah,
Like, what on earth? Like,
yeah.
how do we prepare ourselves for this? Honestly, it's a
So,
minefield.
so an agent, an AI agent, is effectively a bit of AI automation that can go along and do something. That's how you can think about it in the like from 10,000 10,000 feet view.
Mhm.
Whereas if you imagine your experience, you're in ChatGPT and you ask something, you get something back in text, and then you take that text and you go and do something,
Mhm. Mhm.
an agent will be able to do those things. So in other words, there's always like kind of a trigger and an outcome required from these processes. So when you speak to ChatGPT, there's a reason that you're doing that. You need to do something. It gives you information back, then you take that information and go along and make it whatever it's supposed to be. So the agent part of that is that you can remove yourself from that equation.
Mm.
It happens automatically below the covers. So you have something that comes in, a trigger of some kind. AI can understand that. It can go along and actually do things. And produce the outcome rather than giving you back something so that you go and produce the outcome.
Okay.
It's a very, very high level kind of
Mhm.
interpretation of what it is. Um, but you can kind of move it from just by way of a very simple example. Um, if you go online and you say, find me a restaurant available at this time, that's going to give you back some information and you can go and book the restaurants. The agent part of it is that, okay, find me a restaurant and book me the
Mm.
restaurant, and it can go along and do that. So it's enabled with tools that people create. And it can, because it's got those tools, it can actually do things on your behalf. So in the corporate world where I sit and you work on this, that kind of translates to updating databases, updating records, things like that. So that you're using AI to decide something and then do something. That's an agent.
Are we there yet? Are there agents? Are we recruiting agents yet? Is that
And
in the
so
big companies?
So I wouldn't say we've gotten all the way to the recruiting agent side, and I'll dive into that a little bit more now. But certainly agents are the kind of top of mind topic at certainly at large businesses. They
Mm.
are trying to figure out how to put agents into their technology, into their products, things like that, so that not only does generative AI bring that contextual knowledge that we spoke about before, but it can actually use that contextual knowledge to make decisions and do things.
Mhm.
And this is a very, very long way of saying that it's going to remove the human part of doing that. Whereas now you get something back, you go and
Mm.
update the database, or you go update the record, or whatever the
Mhm.
case is. It's just going to do all of that stuff. And when you imagine agents, they don't sleep, they don't take holidays,
Mhm.
they don't need coffee, they're not in a bad mood in the morning, all of that stuff. You see the appeal to big business. Um, so when we spoke about how you're going to hire agents, is there's already the emergence of kind of agent marketplaces. And the way that I think about this is that we spoke about those nuances, things that oftentimes in a company, valuable information will just live inside somebody's head somewhere, because they've been there for 20
Mhm.
years. So if you say, hey, I need to know how to do X, Y, and Z, and someone will say, oh, go speak to Mary.
Mhm.
She knows that. So I go along and I speak to Mary and I say, oh, what's this about? And Mary goes, oh, excuse me, let me have a look at this. Okay, this is the stuff that you need. Now you need to go and do whatever.
Mhm.
Um, what you can imagine, the perfect agent being is an agent that does that. So in other words, it codifies what Mary knows. It knows where to find the information, and then it knows what to do. So in other words, within your company, you don't ask Mary to go do this. You just prompt a system, and that system goes, "Hey, I got this information from Mary.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
know where to go find it, and I know what to do." So you've kind of codified Mary's that little bit of nuanced knowledge that she has,
Mm.
and now it's democratized across the business. No one needs to know where to go find it; it's just there,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it can be very easily executed. Now, it sounds really scary, but in 99% of the cases is that Mary's irritated by the fact that she knows this information. She's got her job, she's trying to do her outcomes, and every 2 minutes someone comes up and goes, "Hey, how do I do that thing that you used to do 5 years ago?"
Mhm.
Um, so it's an opportunity as well to push the company forward. It's an opportunity for Mary to no longer be kind of bogged down and interrupted by information of this kind. Mary can now focus on the things that bring more value.
Mhm.
That's the theory behind it. Of course, the scary part about it is that that agents replace all of the tasks that make up your job. That's the scary part.
Mhm.
But I think in terms of the job landscape, is that infinitely somebody's going to have to be able to create these agents. Somebody has to support them and make them work and things like that. Someone has to fix them when they don't do what they're supposed to do.
Mhm.
So potentially the job landscape will be in that realm. And people that will be really good at creating agents will be people that are really good at explaining how to solve a problem and end to end.
Mm.
So
Mm.
so we kind of touched on it. Like if you can create your own agent based on your own expertise, that's going to become something that you could potentially sell.
Mhm. Mhm. Whew, you're
It,
opening.
it gets super deep, yeah.
I
And
know.
I will caveat though as well with saying that nobody really knows where this is all going to go,
Mhm. Yes, that's
because
one of the questions.
yeah,
So let's cover that.
exactly,
Let's
yeah,
cover that now. So where
yeah.
is this going? Is there a path where we get to keep our stuff? And then what are the other questions? Because I think that was so some of these questions came from conversation. And then what was the other one? Yeah, what does balance look like? Will any humans have work in 10 years? And if yes, what are those roles? I'm sure you've got a list, Gav, in the back in your back pocket, you've got a list. And you're like,
Yeah.
these are the jobs. No, I'm kidding.
um,
No one has that list, damn it.
no, and that's the thing is that I think kind of like any revolution that we've seen before, is it very much depends on what leaders and people that create jobs and things like that. It's going to be dependent on where they choose to go with this. And the example that I always use is, say you take a company like Netflix, or actually any company, any large company, and they go, "Hey, we can create agents to get rid of people, and because of that, we can run our company so much more effectively.
Mhm.
We can make so much more money." So if you think that every single company does that, right, and there's no more humans working at those companies, or guess what? There's no more humans earning any money to buy any of those products. So now suddenly you might have like Netflix. They don't employ a human. The whole thing runs beautifully using artificial intelligence. They, in theory, are positioned to make a huge amount of money. But if no one's working and no one has an income, the first thing they're getting rid of is Netflix. So what's the point, right? What's the
Mhm.
point of
Mhm.
doing that? There's literally no point. Um, so I kind of I'm an AI optimist, in the sense that I think that AI will come along and elevate kind of everybody to a position where you've got an opportunity to disrupt.
Mm.
We spoke about it a little bit earlier. Is that now everybody has this power in their pocket. The skill will be knowing what to do with that.
Mhm.
If you're having lunch with Albert Einstein and all you spoke about was the weather, you've missed a gigantic opportunity. It's knowing what to ask and when to ask and how to get that value so that you can make it work for you, I think is the key.
Mm.
Um, and certainly the jobs of the future will be around, and this is just my opinion, like I've
Mm.
no idea of what it will actually be around, but it will be around the ability to understand very specific outcomes, and knowing how to explain that in such a way and in such detail that you can turn it into an AI, if that makes sense. Kind of very, very targeted outcomes with requirements. So you're going to have people that have got really good expertise at how to get things out of AI. So if all of us can create a picture, all of us can go outside and kick a soccer ball, but not all of us are Lionel Messi and Ronaldo. The very few people get to that place. Natural talent, hard work. Many others kind of get closer to that, but that's because they train and they apply themselves and they learn and they understand what's required and they show dedication, commitment, things like that. It's going to be very much a similar thing with AI. If you use it very passively and you just go with the flow, things like that, that will be where you land up. You will be a passive user along with, yeah, billions of other people maybe. But if you apply yourself and learn and practice and challenge yourself and things like that, you'll go up a level to differentiate yourself. But certainly, I think everybody's going to have to know how to use it for sure. To load the dishwasher we spoke about earlier. And I think the requirement going forward will be, here's this job, this is what we need you to do. We need you to do it quicker, cheaper, faster than you could do it 2 months ago using AI. I think that's kind of the premise.
Okay. All right. So before we dig into the final bit of putting ourselves as parents, I do want to ask you one final question. I am learning so much from these episodes. I hope you are too. Make sure you catch all 5 of them, because us, the people who support people in organizations, we need to stay ahead